What's up, Honey Badger Nation? Man, this is John Kitchens, and super excited to get to hang with you guys today for episode 84 of Expert Mentors Live. Been an awesome year with the Expert Mentors episodes series, if you will, and we've committed and stayed dang consistent throughout the year. We've had a couple misses here over the last couple weeks, but we're definitely committed to keep this thing ongoing. And for those of you that don't know, man, Expert Mentors is really just an opportunity for us to be able to really tap into the horsepower of this group. As most of you know, there are so many talented people in the community, and so many of these talented people want to give back. And, Expert Mentors Live allows us to leverage the power of this community for all of our benefit with the live weekly trainings provided by some of the best agents on the planet. If you guys want to go ahead and set the reminder in your calendar, these calls are every week at noon Central. So get it into your calendar, and hey, you can also leverage these trainings for your agent attraction efforts as well. So there's a little duality there for you. So today, man, like I said, I'm just excited and I'm honored that I get to hang with you and get to dive into something that we've been pretty passionate about, pretty committed to over the last decade, if you will. We've been really going through this process. So we're going to dive in. We're going to talk strategy. We're going to talk, and I'm going to share with you guys the straight line strategic plan. It's what we give all of our coaching clients. And when we had the brokerage in Lawton as well as in Dallas, this was what we had all of our partners, all of our agents go through. They set this up for themselves. So this will be good for you. This will be good for training efforts. If you have a team, being able to pass that along as well. So as we're rocking and rolling through here, guys, throw your questions in the Q&A and chat. If you're watching the recording of this, drop it in the comments, and we will get everything answered for you. So just one other quick item. Here we are at the end of the year. I think this is really important timing. This is why I wanted to do this training this week for you guys. With us being every Wednesday at noon, obviously the next couple Wednesdays with Christmas and New Year's fall. So we will not be going live on those two dates. However, next week I'm going to share the top episodes for the year with you guys. And then on New Year's Day, I'm going to share the top Expert Mentors Live episodes of all time with you guys. So over the next couple of weeks, you'll get to revisit some of the best episodes that we've been able to put together for you guys over the last couple of years. So cool. Let's dive in. All right. So what I'm going to do here, and give me a little bit of a leeway here, see if I can't nail this the right way. I think the last time I did this, I had a little technical difficulty. So we'll see how it goes. All right, boom. All right, guys. So hopefully you guys can see the screen there. And I'm going to actually blow this up. So just so you guys know, this is actual course that we put together inside of Kinder Reese University. And it's the Exponential Growth Strategy Masterclass. This was a strategy, which was week 3. The first 6 weeks of this course is available. It's in there. We cover everything from business, physical, taking you through the clarity process, walking you in through strategy, which I'm going to take you guys through today. We then dive into and get crystal clear on priorities. So that's kind of the follow-up. I'm going to kind of leave you at that point with today's training. Getting crystal clear on goals and KPIs. And then setting up your quad track. If you don't have some type of dashboard, if you're not using something like Sisu or CTE, the quad track is a powerful tool for you to utilize. And got 2020 quad track rolled out. However, I will tell you guys, I know you guys EXP listening, it is it's a workbook, Excel workbook on steroids. It is not set up for measuring cap or fees. You have to do that separately. And when it was built and designed, we were rocking and rolling independent, and we are actually still at Coldwell Banker when we rolled that out. And so we've built it, we've utilized it for our coaching clients. It's universal. So you're going to have to make those adjustments manually to get down to the actual company dollar. That's a whole nother conversation that we're going to dive into after the new year, when we dive into budget and salary cap, that we'll kind of address a lot of those items. But we're going to pick back up after the first of the year. We're going to go through the bottom 6 courses, and man, it's been fun working through that, putting this together, and I'm excited to share some strategy with you guys today. All right. So we're going to take you guys, we're going to go through the strategy process. My man, Ryan Holiday, I think he's definitely one of my favorite authors. And I just love the way he thinks, and definitely a lot of, on stoicism. And if you have not read any of his, what was amazing, we had the opportunity with one of our really good friends to go sit in Glenn Beck's office last week and listen to him interview Glenn. And on Glenn's desk, there was one stack of books, and they were all of Ryan Holiday's books. I couldn't believe it. There was a book on top of it, but then all of Ryan's books, except for one of his marketing books, was there. Ego, I got most of them right here. Stillness is the Key is his newest one. That he had the Daily Stoic. He had Obstacle is the Way, Ego is the Enemy. He had a few others there. So if you guys are, have not read or gone through of any of Ryan Holiday's, add it to your reading list. He's amazing. But I love this little quote here from him. Writing the perfect paper is a lot like a military operation. It takes discipline, foresight, research, strategy, and if done right, ends in total victory. So we're going to, first thing we're going to dissect, and so you guys can really understand, is good strategy versus bad strategy. And it's real simple if you really want to get down to it. I'm going to take you guys deep into the weeds here, but all good strategy is just solving the right problem. And, we want to make sure that, we have a way to identify what the real problem is. And then a good strategy, we solve that problem. Bad strategy is we're solving the wrong problem, the simplest of forms. But good strategy is rare. And this is actually taken from the book called Good Strategy versus Bad Strategy. And good strategy is rare. Many organizations which claim to have a strategy do not. Instead, they have a set of performance goals, or worse, a set of vague aspirations. It is rare because they are strong forces resisting the concentration of action and resources. Good strategy gathers power from its very rareness. Bad strategy occurs when there is bad doctrine, when hard choices are avoided, or when leaders are unwilling or unable to define and explain the nature of the challenge. Man, that's powerful right there. So the kernel of strategy. So strategy is designing a way to deal with a challenge. A good strategy, therefore, must identify the challenge to be overcome and design a way to overcome it. To that, the kernel of a good strategy contains 3 elements: diagnosis, our guiding policy, and coherent action. So a diagnosis defines the challenge. What we reveal, we can heal. So what's holding you guys back from reaching your goals? What is it? A good diagnosis simplifies the often overwhelming complexity of reality down to a similar story by identifying certain aspects of the situation as critical. A good diagnosis often uses a metaphor, analogy, or an existing accepted framework to make it simple and understandable, which then suggests a domain of action. If you cannot make it understandable and where you clearly understand it, and if you have or leading a team or wanting to lead a team in the future, if you can't make it understandable, I always use it's the 5th grade deal, but man, I would even give it to my 8-year-old. I'd be like, Zane, bro, can you read this? Does this make sense? What does this mean to you? You got to get it down to the simplest of forms. If it's complex and you got words that you're uncertain on, man, your team's not going to have a freaking clue. So it's really, really important that you guys really drill down, get crystal clear, define what is the real challenge. And one of the ways to think about this, if you guys have not read this, so a lot of our strategy and the things that we learn through strategy, we learned a lot through from Vern Harnish, and I will share kind of his information and everything in a little bit. But the simplest of ways to look at that, where and I'll take you guys through that process as we look at it. But man, I absolutely freaking lost what I was going to share with you guys. It'll come around. This is a small room, so it'll definitely come back. So diagnosis. The next of the three components is a guiding policy. It's an overall approach chosen to cope with or overcome the obstacles identified in the diagnosis. Like the guardrails on a highway, the guiding policy directs and constrains action in certain directions without defining exactly what shall be done. Just gives you that, what you're going to kind of bounce off of. So identifying the challenge. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I told you it was a small room. So the number one book recommendation from Vern Harnish, the number one business book recommendation. This is what he recommends. It's number one. And you've got to get this, right? You've got to get this because it's called The Goal by Eli Goldratt. I looked back here for it the other day and I didn't see it. I know I've got a couple copies floating around. If you guys have ever seen or been at the house, there's like 2 other bookshelves in the garage that are full with books. So it's around here somewhere. I would listen to it. If you guys, do well with Audible, I would get a hard copy, but I would also listen to it. It's called The Theory of Constraints. And it really breaks down and helps you identify where is the constraint in my business. If I'm not getting the results, where in the process is the choke point? I always like to think about it as a water hose, right? We got water coming in, our results are coming out, and there's always a kink in the hose, always. And he breaks it down, and there's a kid in the story that he talks about that kind of slows things up when he's working with his kids and scout troop and they're on hikes, and his name's Herbie. And Herbie, it really is the constraint. And it's a really cool story because they talk about business, family, personal stuff. And there's always a constraint somewhere in everything that we do. And so what he talks about is you got to find Herbie. You got to find the choke point, why we're not getting the results. And in simplest of ways to think about this is that, man, I'm talking to a lot of people, but I'm not setting appointments. Well, is the constraint in your skill set? Do you know what to say? And if that is true, then you would say, man, I've got to focus my energy. My priority needs to be on improving my skill set. I need to dive into CHSA, CHBA. I need to get my butt to a boot camp. And then, and same, if you just kind of move down the conveyor belt a little bit, you've got, man, I'm meeting with a lot of people, but I'm not getting clients. I'm not winning listings. I'm not getting buyers to want to work with me. Could be a skill set, right? Could be another deal. I need to improve my presentation. I need to start mastering my presentation. And so those are just two examples. And the thing that you have to understand is that Herbie always exists. He's always there. And as your business continues to grow, he moves at different points along that whole process. So you've got to really understand that, get good at the theory of constraints, and find that diagnosis of what is the real problem that's preventing you from getting the results you want right now. So diagnosis, guiding policy, coherent actions dictate how the guiding policy will be carried out. The action should be coherent, meaning the use of resources, policies, and maneuvers that are undertaken should be coordinated and support each other, not fight each other or be independent from each other. They've got to work together. That's one of the biggest things, right? And we'll talk about, when you smart out your priorities, when you smart out your goals, they have to be relevant, right? They have to be relevant to what we're trying to accomplish. So good strategy versus bad strategy. Good strategy is simple and obvious. Keep it simple. It's obvious. What we reveal, we can heal. We're solving the right problem. Good strategy identifies the key challenge to overcome. Okay, good strategy identifies the key challenge to overcome. Bad strategy fails to identify the nature of the challenge. You are not willing to address current reality. You're not willing to face the brutal facts. If you will do that, guys, if you will just embrace it, like, what am I learning from this? Then that'll help you identify what you need to overcome, and that then will put in that you'll have a good strategy. If you don't know what the problem is, you can't evaluate alternative guiding policies or actions to take. You just are not going to be able to adjust your strategy as you learn more over time. So good strategy includes actions to take, overcome the challenge. Actions are not implementation details. They are the punch in the strategy. Strategy is about how an organization will move forward, right? How will you move forward based upon the current situation, what you know, and what you want to accomplish? Bad strategy lacks actions to take. Mistakes goals, ambition, vision, values, and effort for strategy. These things are critical, but on their own, they're not strategy. Good strategy is designed to be coherent. All the actions an organization takes should reinforce and support each other. We're rowing in the same direction. And, as leaders, we must do this deliberately and coordinate action across the different functions that we have in our business. And so, guys, it doesn't, obviously as you continue to grow, but even when you make that first hire and they're helping a lot with the operational side of things, there's only a handful of key functions within any type of organization, right? You've obviously head of company, you've got head of sales, you've got head of marketing. And what you also have to get is that if you're head of company, you're always head of marketing. You can oversee the strategy and you can get people in there that are tacticians that are executing and then also giving feedback to help with the marketing strategy. But you as head of company are always head of marketing. You cannot relinquish that role. The other role, then you would, sales, marketing, operations, and finance. And in the beginning, your name's in all the boxes. And then you get, 15, 20, 25 transactions, 30 transactions, and you're wondering why you're not getting things done. And then at the right time, that's when, you start to make that key executive assistant, admin hire, and they take over operations. And so you have to then be able to coordinate and communicate what's going on across all the different functions. So hopefully that it gave a little mental picture of kind of an organizational structure that is designed to hit whatever goal that you guys are wanting to hit. Bad strategy is just a list of priorities. They don't support each other. I mean, it's just a random checklist. A checklist, there's a difference between a procedure and a checklist. A procedure is we do this, then we do this, then we do this, then we do this. A checklist is, I don't care when you do it, just get it done. And so bad strategy is just a list of those things that we're going to do. And we're going to get them done. They don't, there's no rhyme or reason. They don't support each other. They don't trigger the next. So you have to understand that. So bad strategy is just a list of those that don't support each other at best, actively conflict with each other, undermine each other, and fight for resources at worst. Oh boy. Especially when there's just a handful of us, right? We want to make sure that, we're working together and we're not trying to rob resources within the organization. Obviously bigger companies get away with this. They're throwing money at the problem, but it just still makes for a bad strategy. Good strategy is about focusing and coordinating efforts to achieve an outcome. When necessary, means saying no to some goals, initiatives, and people. Most powerful word you guys can incorporate into your game plan into 2020 and beyond is embracing and saying no more. There's some of you that will listen to this, and Brent Gove shared this with us in Cincinnati earlier this year at Cincinnati Mastermind. And he said, there's some of you in this room that need to say no to doing more transactions. I always challenge our clients. I had a great conversation with the client yesterday. We throttled back on the goal on the production goal for 2020 because it didn't make sense to the overall objective of what he's wanting to accomplish. Sometimes transaction's a vanity number. You got to know why you want to hit that number. What is it supporting? What is it doing that's in alignment to where you want to be long term? Bad strategy is a result of a leader who's unwilling or unable to say no. The reason good strategy looks so simple is because it takes a lot of effort to maintain the coherence of the design by saying no to people. Good strategy leverages sources of power to overcome an obstacle. It brings relative strength to bear against relative weakness. So how to identify bad strategy? 4 major hallmarks of bad strategy. Hopefully you guys have your notepad, jotting down some notes. These 4 hallmarks of a bad strategy are definitely you're going to want to capture. And then, like I said, after we get the replay of this, post it. I will share the 1-page straight line strategic plan with you guys. So the 4 major hallmarks of bad strategy. Number 1 is fluff. A strategy written in gibberish, masking as strategic concepts, is a classic bad strategy. It uses obtrusive and inflated words to create the illusion of high-level thinking. We made this mistake for years. And especially if you have a team, guys, it has to be understandable. You guys have probably heard we need to smart our priorities, smart our goals. We call it smart you. It has to be specific. It has to be measurable. It has to be attainable. It has to be relative. There has to be a time-based timeline on it. And it has to be understandable. Smart you. And so make sure there's no fluff. Make sure it's straight to the point. Like I said, get your kiddos to read through it. And, if they understand it, then there's a pretty high probability that you're going to understand it and that your team's going to understand it as well. So failure to face the challenge, a strategy that does not define the challenge to overcome makes it impossible to evaluate and impossible to improve. So we talked a little bit about that earlier. Mistaking goals for strategy. We mentioned this earlier too. Bad strategies are just statements of desire rather than plans for overcoming obstacles. We all have obstacles. There's always constraints. That's what we're trying to figure out. What is the real problem? What is the real challenge? What is the real obstacle in my way? What is the real constraint? And how are we going to solve it? Bad strategic objectives. So a strategic objective is a means to overcoming an obstacle. So strategic objectives are bad when they fail to address critical issues or when they're impractical. A critical issue could be, how do we increase agent production when there's no lead flow? Right? We don't have any leads. How are we going to increase our agent productivity? So those are some things that, how do we solve that? How do we overcome that issue? Okay. So that just gives you kind of I just want to kind of mentally get you guys kind of thinking through, okay, what's good and what's bad, right? What's a good strategy? What's a bad strategy? So I think that's important to kind of that we talk through that. Now I'm going to take you guys through the process we go through. And in fact, as we're speaking, this is, towards the end of the year, our team on the coaching side, we're doing strategy on Friday, and the entire team, now, not the entire team is going to be on strategy, but the entire team goes through this exercise. They go through the pre-strategy planning exercise. So what I would say, when you're small, when you're under 10, under 15 people within your organization, you want every one of them to go through this. And the reason is that everybody in the organization, that people that you have a different viewpoint, right? So think about this. You've got everybody on the bus. You could be sitting at the front of the bus, the back of the bus, on the left side, the right side, the middle. You have a different viewpoint from where you're sitting. And it's no different with our team. If you have your rock star admin, they see things that you don't see. Now, I love this argument. Well, I did that job. I know what they're doing. I know the problems that they have. I know what they're doing. You ain't doing that job right now. You got different problems. You got a different viewpoint. You're not seeing things. We all have blind spots. What we reveal, we can heal. And your admin sees your blind spots. They see things. They do things differently than what you did. And so don't discredit anybody in your organization, and you want and you embrace and you encourage their feedback. And so you've got that rock star admin. Maybe you've got a virtual assistant. Maybe you've got an ISA. Maybe you've got some buyer's agents. Maybe you're at a stage where you've got a couple full-time admin. You got maybe an in-house TC. Whoever you have on the team, get them to go through this. Get them to go through this process. So activity 1 is the start-stop survey. Just real simple, man. From your viewpoint, what do you think our company should start doing? What do you think our company should stop doing? And what do you think our company should keep doing? And so, you want to get their feedback, and you want to encourage it. You want to embrace it. You want to tell them thank you, and really push them to give you some, from their perspective of what they think our company should start doing. Number 2 is accomplishments. Man, this is so important. And a lot of you high driving D personalities tuning into this will want to skip over this. And this is not good. You have to look at your successes, because we are our own worst critics. Nobody's going to be harder on us than ourselves. And it is really, really important, because you guys are accomplishing a lot of stuff. And if I'm speaking to honey badgers, so I know you guys are knocking shit out. And so you have to take the time and acknowledge that. And you have to do it, especially for your people. What are the successes that we accomplished over this last time frame? So like for you guys, if this is the first time that you've even stepped in or looked at any type of strategic planning, then I would look back, man, what did I accomplish over this last year? Ideally you're in a quarterly rhythm. That's the rhythm that we love to get into with this. We go through this process every 90 days. And so we want to evaluate, man, how far up the mountain did we climb over the last quarter? And it's really, really important. And Clayton Mask shared this story with us. And he said, this is, when he was, his kids were younger, and he was helping out with, they were scouts, right? So he was helping out with the scout troop. And he said, never failed. They would go on hikes and expeditions over the weekends. And he said, it never failed. He said, you would always have that one kid that would lock up on the climb on a hike. Never failed. He would just lock up. He would just become paralyzed. And he said, what you have to do is that you got to go down there. You got to get to the kid. One, you got to get him to breathe. Then you have to take him and you have to turn him around and make him look back down the mountain, back down the trail. This is critical so that he understands how far he's really come. And this is important for you guys, right? You're beating yourself up. But when you look back and you say, damn, I did all of that, that's impressive. And what that does is that allows you to turn back around and keep going. And so it's really important to pause and acknowledge the things that you guys have accomplished. Now, you high driving D personalities, this is where you want to get to, right? This is like, man, give me the lessons learned. Not everybody is like you. There are people that do not want to look at the lessons learned. This is the stick your head in the sand, right? This is not facing the brutal facts. Good strategy, bad strategy. Good strategy, you face the brutal facts. You face the real challenges. So lessons learned are, what are the experiences that have had a significant impact from the past quarter? The experience may either be positive or negative. And I think that's a huge distinction that you need to understand, is that lessons learned aren't all bad. There are some really, really good lessons that are positive that we learn as we continue to keep moving forward. So take the time, go through that. What did we learn? I mean, ideally what we're trying to do is we don't want to learn that lesson again. and we want to incorporate it into some facet of our organization. Is it a system tweak? Is it a policy tweak? Is it business model tweak? Is it, hey, a person tweak? What is it, right? And so we're constantly learning. I mean, you guys are damn honey badgers. You're learning something every day. And so you want to acknowledge that, right? And this is why it's important to get this feedback from your entire team, because they're learning lessons as well, right? You've got somebody that's handling operational. They may have learned something along the lines operational that you may not be aware of. So we want to take the time to get clear on that. Here's really from the pre-strat piece that is really going to be one of the most powerful, is the SWOT exercise. And, SWOT is just part of the, company strategic planning process, where it connects its objectives and strategies to actionable tactics carried out by the team members. So, situation analysis, right? When we're talking about the current situation. And so where the company determines it stands on these 4 key areas for us to determine what changes we need to make, right? So SWOT just really is strengths. So strengths, provide an analysis to the company's advantages it has over its competitors. What are the weaknesses? And these, we want to consider areas in which the companies are at a competitive disadvantage. What are the opportunities? So opportunities are a list of untapped markets or business developments. And then threats, external environment that could affect the company, technology, environment, regulations, things within the industry. The best way to look at it, strengths and weaknesses are internal, opportunities and threats are external. And those are just, how you want to look at it, how you want to evaluate it. One thing that I would take a step further is have your people do this on themselves, right? Identify their strengths, identify their weaknesses, identify what opportunities they see that they have, and then also kind of what threats they have if you have a team and you're running them through this process. So strengths and weaknesses, the purpose of using SWOT to address strengths and weaknesses, it helps the company firmly understand its core market advantages in areas that competitors may criticize the company for. Companies typically, make core strengths the focal point of marketing messages and trying to create differentiation from competitors, right? Companies need to understand their weaknesses to decide what areas they should improve on and what areas are inherent to the nature of the business. And, I think what helps with the weaknesses is hey, where do we need to identify to where we don't get blindsided, or as Kinder likes to say, get hit with the 2x4. And so, it's really important that you go through the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Opportunities, exploring untapped opportunities, helps you guys consider ways to grow. How can, man, I want to go from, if you're an individual agent, man, I'm doing 10, I want to bump up to 25, man, what are my opportunities to more than double my business over the next 12 months? Strong companies are always looking for ways to grow, because if they don't grow, they typically fall behind and give up opportunities to competitors. Opportunities can include new and emerging markets, new business products, strategic relationships. Hey man, an opportunity for us is to incorporate a transaction fee. Hey, an opportunity for us is to align with some affiliate relations, right? Some vendor dollars, right? How can we start to tap in and take advantage of, the people that are getting bites of the apple, but we're creating those opportunities for them, but there's nothing coming back to us in return. So those are huge opportunities if you don't have a lot of those in place. And then threats. It's one of the least enjoyable areas of the SWOT to consider. Companies need to understand external threats so they're not caught off guard, not hit with the 2x4. What's going on in the industry? What's happening? Jay and I, we've been talking a lot about the iBuyer, right? Really, what's going on? How can you turn, if you think that's a threat, how can you turn that into an opportunity? And so you just want to evaluate all of those, kind of what's going on. I know the big one for us in the lot market, being a military town, is that it's always a real possibility. It's a real threat that Fort Sill could change something with housing, right? Or the Army could change kind of what's going on, where the budget spend's going to be. Is it going to impact Fort Sill or not, right? So being aware of kind of what could really affect your community, and then ideally, I mean, could affect your company. So you just want to identify that, get crystal clear. And the thing too here, guys, is that, like I said, multiple perspectives, but get the things out of your head, right? You don't want to carry this stuff around with you. So pre-strategy planning, SWOT exercise, strengths, weakness, opportunities, threats, strengths of culture, uniform documented processes, referral program as an opportunity, industry disruption, technologies, threats. So I think you guys get that. All right. Company critical number. So this is activity 5 to identify. So what is the single most important quantifiable quarterly achievement that we could reach that will help the company achieve its vision, that's moving us closer, that guiding North Star, that's pulling us in that direction? What is that critical number that if we focus on, it's going to propel us forward to accomplish what we want to accomplish, not only now, but moving us closer to either the BHAG or like it says here, the vision that we have for the organization. And, you know, what we reveal, we can heal. Where's Herbie? What's the biggest constraint? What's also the biggest opportunity? And so just kind of identifying, and here's the thing with company critical number, it can change every quarter. Doesn't necessarily mean that it does, but it could. It could. If we moved Herbie on down the path and he's, you know, set up shop somewhere else, then yeah, we maybe need to really focus on that. I can tell you, you know, when we built the call center in the Dallas office, you know, we were rocking eight ISAs at the time, and our focus was on appointments set. Well, we weren't meeting that number, so we went further down the path, because what we found, Herbie wasn't at appointments not set. Herbie was at, we ain't making enough damn dials. So our critical number for that next quarter became number of dials. That's what we reported on every morning. That's what we looked at. Are we hitting our dials? Are we getting in? Are we putting in the effort that's going to push Herbie on further down the path? And so you just got to identify when you know where he's at, then you know what number you're going to be focused on to make sure that he's moved. Company critical number. Strategic issues. Just gave you a great example a while ago. I think I gave you the same one. So what are the issues that must be resolved for us to hit our goals? How do we do X given Y? How do we keep agents productive when lead flow is low? Right. So those are some of the questions. In the strategic issue, you're just asking the question. You don't want to answer it. You'll flush it out and you'll answer it. But in this activity, in the pre-strategy, you just want to ask the questions. How do we do X given Y? Right. How do we, you know, how do we increase, you know, how do we get more from our marketing efforts when we don't have the budget for it? So, you know, how do we increase lead flow when we don't have the budget to spend on ad spend? Right. So these are some of the questions that you guys can start asking, and those will get flushed out because we're talking about the real issues here. And then this is what we can start to identify. And if we see a theme, and it helps us identify what it is that we need to focus on. So that's the pre-strategy. There's a couple other exercises in that document, and they are specifically relative to the priorities. Okay. And what we call our proposed quarterly priority. And that's in that document. It's we call it PQP. What is our proposed quarterly priority? And in the proposed quarterly priority, it's real simple. What is it that we need to focus on? And then the most powerful part of that is why? What's the rationale for us to do that? And then, you know, what would that look like if it was smarted out? You know, if it was specific, measurable, attainable, relative, time-bound, and understandable, smart you. What would that look like? And it's just those three things. You just go through there and you're thinking through it. It's like, man, you know, we need a better, we have no branding. We need a better branding content strategy to create an audience, a greater awareness within our community, so that you know, we're able to present, you know, our compelling offer to that audience, and then, utilize the marketing plan to retarget, possibly with testimonials. That's going to result in, 5 additional appointments or 10 additional appointments per month, starting, in, January 1st, 2020. That's an idea of kind of thinking through what a proposed quarterly priority would be. And then I would put why, right? Just like, we have no branding effort. We don't have an audience. We're going completely cold traffic. We're not doing anything to build awareness, warming up an audience that we can put, testimonials, people like them that are telling their stories in front of them. So that's just kind of a rough shoot from the hip, kind of an example on what a proposed quarterly priority could look like. And that's part of the exercise. And then there's one other part to the exercise, which is a theme. And a theme is really important around, once you kind of settle in on kind of what the target is and what we're looking to accomplish, there's usually always a theme around it. And we had a client that, and she still runs with this same theme every now and then. She'll pull it out about once a year, but she knew that they had to, from a tipping point within her market, that they needed more market share, and they knew to get that, we were going to do it through listings. And the way her business model was set up is that everybody focused on listings. And so her theme was cruising to 100. So for the quarter, their goal was to take 100 new listings in the quarter. And so the theme was, hey, if we accomplish that, then we're going on a cruise. And so everybody had specific numbers so that they could get their ticket to the cruise. And if they hit even a higher number, then they could bring somebody with them. And, if we all hit it at 100, then, everybody would get to go based upon, what part they played in it. And so the whole scoreboard was then designed with cruise ships that started over here. They built this whole scoreboard out that had them in the marina, and then had an island, right? So every morning on their huddle, they would say, how many new listings did we take yesterday? And they would move that cruise ship out of the marina, out of the harbor, over into the island. And so the goal was to obviously cruise into 100 to get all of the cruise ships over. So that's an idea of a theme. And it's kind of important, man. You got to get people engaged. It's fun. And just want to share, whatever theme, whatever goals you have, don't do them more than 90 days. If your goals and your challenges and your fun things that you're doing to keep everybody engaged, if you do it more than 90 days, they lose interest. It has to be 90 days or less. And I would get some visual, get some fun with it. I know Stace up in the Lawton office, I think one of their last ones, they were going to Top Golf. So they had, whatever their number was, they had a bowl full of golf balls. And every time they hit whatever target that they were measuring, they would take one golf ball out and put it over into the other jar on the other side. So just little fun things like that, guys. But you got to make it fun. Just keep everybody engaged. And that's one of the other pre-strategy exercises, is to kind of get their feedback on what they think the theme should be. All right, so let's jump into strategic plan. Gino Wickman, and I'll touch on Gino in just a second, but as business becomes more complex, ideas change and shiny objects pop up to knock you off track. I think you guys, if you're like, yep, shiny object syndrome, I got it. And so if you don't have a solid plan in place, you're going to squirrel all over all the time. And so you've got to get a plan in place to keep your attention, to stay committed to what it is that you're going to do. So here's the straight line strategic plan. And I'm going to move through this pretty quick. I want to leave just the last couple minutes for any questions or comments that you guys have. But here's the straight line strategic plan. Super simple, super straightforward. It's a living document, meaning it's going to evolve. The number one thing that I can stress on you guys as you go through and you're filling this out for the first time is that it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be right. It's going to be off. You're going to be missing things. There's going to be things that you're uncertain on. There's going to be blanks, things that you don't even know the answer to yet. And that's okay. That's why we do this every 90 days, because when you do it the second time, it's going to be better. The third time is even going to be better. The fourth time, better. And like I said, we've been going through this process for over a decade. Kinder and I, we did our first strategic plan, and we utilized Vern Harnish and Mastering the Rockefeller Habits and Vern's one page plan. And it was pretty laughable, but it's what we knew at the moment. Did it get better the second time? Hell yeah. Did it get even better the third time? You bet. And so, I've been a part of this for the last decade, since 2010, every quarter. Like I said, we're doing ours with the, on the coaching side of things, Friday. Jay's done it a couple more times because, obviously with running NAEA, and then with the brokerages, right? When we were still a part of Lawton office, we would go through that. So, man, I can't stress enough how critical this process is. And it just, for us, when things get a little wobbly, we can tell it's about strategic planning time. And so every 90 days you're going through it. And so it's really, really key to kind of go through this. This is a great one to start with. If you've never done it before, use this one. If you're running an organization, I would say we can graduate up over time to mastering the Rockefeller habits. Vern has one. That's where we started. And then we built this one for the coaching clients, but then we started using it for our real estate agents. And so all of our real estate agents would go through this. They would fill this out every quarter. They'd have to update their strategic plan. And Mastering the Rockefeller Habits, if you guys have not gone through that, I would say get that to your library. The number one book besides, and there's a lot. Get Beyond Entrepreneurship for your organization. It needs to be one that lives in your office. These are reference manuals, guys. These aren't one and done. Like, I will have all three of these books out on Friday when we're working through strategy. And I will always be referencing them nonstop. So Beyond Entrepreneurship is Jim Collins, he penned it, James Collins. He won't even acknowledge when he talks about all of the work from good to great, how the mighty fall, those handful of books. But chapter 2 is on vision. And if you guys are listening in, you've been a coaching client of ours before, you've probably get a terrible Xerox copy of chapter 2's PDF sent to you to read through, but it's so powerful on how he breaks down vision. And then over the last couple of years, we kind of graduated over to, I don't say graduated, we gravitated, it's probably a better word, gravitated over to Gino Wickman's Vision Traction Organizer. And, the thing is that Gino acknowledges Vern. So it's like, go to the source, right? So that's why I would say start with Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. Make sure you have a copy of Beyond Entrepreneurship because you need to read chapter 2 on vision. And if you have any team members, you need to read chapter 1 on leadership. It is probably the best condensed one chapter on leadership that you can read. And then, larger organization, you've gone through this, I would say maybe a year, you kind of look at Vern's, I would jump into the VTO, Vision Traction Organizer. And those are all 3 great reference manuals for you and your business. If you get your leadership team 100% on the same page as to where your company is going, how it is going to get there, then they will reach consensus 10 times faster, better, and easier. If you get your leadership team to agree on the answers to where and how questions, then they will be 100% on the same page and reach consensus. So let's take a look at the straight line plan. Up in the top left is the vision. Get Beyond Entrepreneurship, read chapter 2, go to Darren Hardy's The Compound Effect. If you have not read that book, that is one of our top 3 books of all time. You should give that to your kids. You should give that to everybody on your team. Go through on his free resources. There's one called Core Values. It's a core value resource. Go through that, download it, go through the process. It's going to distill it down to your top 3 values. And what you're creating is the should and should nots. You're creating the decision-making filters that you have in your organization. From your values, your purpose is born. Why are you in this business? Get it out. Get it on your head. It's like I said, first time it's not going to be perfect. It's going to evolve. We still have conversations on core values to this day. So get them in there. It's your first time going through it. Get it in there. Don't go get the tattoo just yet. You want to really let it marinate, go through this process several times, and then you can start to anchor some things in. Mission, it's not mission statement. It's a mission of where are you going? How do you know you're going to get there and by when? So Mission could be the top of Mount Everest. Mission could be, hey, we know we're going to the top of Mount Everest, but our first mission is get to base camp 1. And this is where it is. This is how we know we're going to get there. And this is where we're going to get there by. Sandbox. Where, what, and who do you serve? Where is your focus? In Lawton, it's a little different, right? Man, it's Lawton, Elgin, Duncan, Cache, surrounding areas. Whereas here in DFW, you better get dang specific. Like, it doesn't make sense for us to do business over in Fort Worth when we're focused here and living in North Dallas. So you got to get crystal clear. You got to get crystal clear on who you work with and who you don't. Do you do short sale properties? Do you do REOs? You want to get crystal clear on what you do and what you don't do. Core values, beliefs, companies stem from, the owner's values, right? It's what Gino Wickman talks about. Define 3 to 7, I think is good. Any more than that, it becomes a little bit of a challenge. And, get your feedback. They represent the company and its employees. If you identify these values, you can create a company culture and assess whether to hire or fire someone according to how much they match the values. And that's true. We hire and fire to the values. It's 50% of what we look at from an evaluation standpoint. And what defines you guys? What defines your people? What are the 3 to 7 characteristics? Your culture is just a collection of your people. So what are the characteristics of your people? And here's a better question. What kind of people do you want to surround yourself with? What do they embody? And so some values become aspirational. Some are really what you are at your core. So really just kind of going through that process. Core focus, service provides your unique selling proposition, right? What it sets you apart from your competition. Once you have a clear vision and you're in a core focus, you won't be distracted by the things that don't fit, right? We're creating those filters. Does this make sense or no? Is it moving me closer to where I want to be or further away? If it's moving me further away, say no. What purpose drives you? Why you exist as an organization? What is it that you do your best work at? What must you stay laser focused on and not get distracted? So that's kind of the mission in the sandbox fall in there. There's a top on part of the plan where you can put your, a couple of your top strengths, a couple of your top opportunities, a couple of your top weaknesses, and a couple of your top threats. Get it on there. Like I said, this is a living document. For us, we laminate them. We carry them around with us. It's amazing when you meet with new team members, when you meet with vendor affiliations. It's like sitting down. It's like, hey, here's our game plan. And it helps you articulate what it is that you're wanting to accomplish. Your job as a leader is to create this compelling vision, create this utilizing your team. But then the second part, your job as a leader is to articulate this. And this plan helps you do just that. So you're moving over, and you guys can kind of see this all works together, right? We got our vision that aligns to our goals, and then that helps us get clear on kind of what our initiatives need to be. So long-term, what is the BHAG? What is that big, hairy, audacious goal that you have? What does this business look like for you in 10 years? What is it? Here's a better question. What does it have to look like for you to stay committed to this over the next 10 years? What is that passion? What the heck are you guys known for? And what is kind of a detailed image of that future business look like, right? What is the headcount? What does the organization look like? Are we in a big office? What are we doing? So really start to manifest, right? Because when we start to think through and detail through that, you guys know what happens, right? It's no different than saying, you know what, man, I'm thinking about getting this new Ford, F-150, black, tricked out, whatever. And all of a sudden you see black Ford F-150s tricked out everywhere. And it triggers our reticular activator to start seeing and bringing those things into our lives. So really, what does that look like for you? 3 to 5 years, as you see, we're reverse engineering. So what is it, 3 to 5 years? What does the business look like? What does the business look like over the next 12 months, right? Get it in there. The one thing that's missing on here that it doesn't have is, where do you want your agent headcount to be if you're focused on agent attraction? I would just write it underneath there. 1 year goal, I want to have X number of my front line, and in my organization, 3 to 5 years, this is what I want it to look like. So just utilize, get it on there. That way it stays top of mind. BHAG, man, dream up that big, hairy, audacious goal that you're passionate about and pursue them relentlessly. You have to begin with the end goal in mind, knowing that a goal is a dream with a deadline. Clay Clark, love that. So big, hairy, audacious goal is a strategic business statement similar to the vision statement, which is created to focus An organization on a single medium to long-term organization-wide goal, which is audacious, likely to be externally questionable, but not internally regarded as impossible, right? People are going to be like, I don't know about that, but it's so far down the road that, hey, we're going to figure it out. The BHAG, so like I said, 10-year top of Mount Everest. Here's a question when you're thinking through that. And here's what most people challenge, they challenge themselves with, is that they run everything through their current reality. So give yourself permission when you're thinking long-term, what would you do if you had $10 million in the bank, right? What would you want to accomplish if you had more money than, you can spend 10 million, but you don't have to. You could really live off of that forever for the rest of your life. But if you had $10 million in the bank, what would you do? And that's a great question. That's a great filter when you're looking at your bag. And I love the Peter Thiel quote, to challenge your BHAG. Is your BHAG worthy? If you had a 10-year plan on how to get somewhere, the top of Mount Everest is your top of Mount Everest. It's wherever you want to go. You should ask yourself, why can't we do this in 6 months? And then Tim Ferriss, what might you do to accomplish your 10-year goals in the next 6 months if you had a gun against your head? That will challenge you to think differently. If you had to figure it out, how would you? And then that also challenges you to make sure that a BHAG is a BHAG. 3-year picture, won't dive into that, but really you can start to get crystal clear on what the next 3 years looks like. 10 years is kind of hard. 3 years, you can kind of get your head around. 1-year plan, the simpler they are, the more likely they are to be achieved. So true. Key initiatives. So your key initiatives really are what has to be true if I want to accomplish what I want to accomplish next year. What has to be true if I want to accomplish what I want to accomplish in 3 years? Same thing for 10. And if you don't know quite yet, leave them. It's going to change. But like, if I want to go and double my business, what has to be true for us to have this conversation 12 months from now? What has to have had happened for that to be true? And then the approved quarterly execution plan. This is the next step that I shared with you guys when we get real clear on the priorities. Like I said, it starts with proposed quarterly priorities, and then we approve them. And approve them, we get down to the details. We create the checklist. We create, hey, these are all the action items that have to happen for this to come to fruition. So that's the last part, man. What has to get done over the next 90 days. 5 questions for you guys as we wrap up here to consider before, as you're trying to identify what those priorities should be. Well, what's the easiest to implement? What's the easiest thing for me to implement? Man, what has the greatest return on my time? What has the greatest return on our investment? What will pay off the fastest? What requires the least amount of resources? And is this aligned to the overall goal, what we're trying to accomplish? Yes or no? So these are just great 5 questions to consider when you're trying to determine what it is that you want to do, right? What is, I always like saying, what is going to make the cash register ring the fastest, right? If I don't have a good expired or for sale by owner strategy in place, or a good open house strategy in place, then why in the heck am I going to go spend X number of dollars on whatever it is, right? I'm going to go make an ISA hire. Well, shit, I can tell you ISAs ain't going to pay off for 90 to 100 to 120 days. So what can we do that's going to be easier to implement, that's going to get us a faster return, it's going to pay off the fastest, that requires the least amount of resources, hiring and leading and, managing that agreement with those people, whoever you hire, either in-house or outsourced. So 5 questions to consider before you do anything. And there's the plan. So we'll definitely get this recording posted and get this plan in there for you guys. I know saw question come through early on. What is the author's name? So Scott, I think when this came through, we had, I was talking about The Goal by Eli Goldratt. It's an older book, but I would get it on Audible. It's a fascinating story to go through and listen, but you'll get it. It's Theory of Constraints. I mean, Google Theory of Constraints, Google The Goal by Eli Goldratt. And it'll really help you identify where the real challenges are at in your business. So guys, I hope you absolutely found this of value. And I really appreciate you guys allowing me to step in, be an expert mentor for you guys. I'm usually on the other end, asking the questions and guiding all of our awesome honey badgers, through these training sessions. So being able to be on this end with you guys is pretty cool. So I appreciate that. When we get this up, repost it for you guys, man. Share kind of what your biggest takeaway was. I know, our other expert mentors, over the last, well, almost 2 years that we've been doing these, that, man, they love that feedback. So definitely share kind of your biggest takeaways. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. And hey, even better yet, if you are you feel like you've got some, man, I would love to share and add some value back to the Honey Badger Nation, man, hit me up. We are stacking the deck for 2020 on who's going to be presenting coming out of the gate. So love to get your name in the hat if you want to step in and add value back to the Honey Badger Nation. Appreciate you guys. You guys have an awesome rest of your day. Fantastic rest of the year. And like I said, if you need anything, we're here for you.